Do not move. Seriously. For the next few seconds, just sit there. Now pick one. Left hand or right hand. Don't say it out loud. Do not move yet. Just choose left or right. You felt that, didn't you? That tiny private moment where you thought, okay, I picked. It felt like you were there first. It felt like the decision began with you. But what if that feeling is the suspicious part? What if, before you ever felt that decision, your brain had already started preparing it? What if the voice inside your head is not the person making the choice, but the detective who walks into the room after the crime scene has already been cleaned? Today, we are opening a case file. Not about murder, not about ghosts, not about aliens, something worse. A missing decision. Because somewhere between your brain, your body, and the voice that says, I meant to do that, there is a strange little delay. And once you notice it, it is very hard to unnotice. The case begins in a lab. A person sits in a chair, their eyes on their scalp. In front of them is a clock-like display. They are told to do something simple, very simple. Whenever they feel it, they can move their finger. No countdown, no command. No one telling them when. Just move when they feel the urge. Then they have to report the exact moment when they first became aware of wanting to move. That sounds easy. You feel the urge, you move. You tell the scientist when you decided. Simple, except the brain did something strange. Before the person said, I decided now, their brain had already begun to change. A signal appeared before the conscious urge. A quiet build-up, a preparation, a little electrical whisper saying, movement is coming. And the creepy part is this. The person did not feel like anything had started yet. From the inside, they felt like the decision began when they became aware of it. But from the outside, the brain looked like it had started earlier. It is like watching a movie where the detective bursts into the room and says, I have solved the case. But the camera shows someone else placing the evidence 5 minutes before. And suddenly you wonder, wait, who actually solved it? This became one of the most famous experiments in neuroscience of free will. Benjamin Libet and his colleagues studied the strange gap between brain preparation and conscious intention. The brain seemed to start preparing a movement before the person consciously felt the urge to move. Now let's be careful. This does not mean your entire life is secretly remote controlled. This does not mean every love, every dream, every choice, every bad haircut, every questionable text message, and every I'm going to watch one episode was decided by a tiny villain hiding behind your forehead. Science is weird, but it is usually not that dramatic. The experiments were simple. Tiny movements, button presses, finger flexes. Not should I marry this person, not should I move cities, not should I eat the last slice of cake even though I said I was saving it for tomorrow. The last one is complicated. That involves philosophy, hunger, and betrayal. But the experiment still matters because it poked a hole in something we usually never question. The feeling of deciding. You do not just make choices, you experience yourself making choices. You feel like the author of your actions. You feel like there's a tiny captain inside your head standing at the control panel calmly saying, turn left, raise hand, open phone. Pretend you did not see that message. Do not cry in the grocery store. Buy snacks. Maybe 2 snacks. But the brain is not a little captain. The brain is more like a city at night. Millions of cities. Roads, signals, old alarms, secret shortcuts, traffic jams, a bakery opening for no reason at 2 a.m. Somewhere inside that city, decisions begin forming before they can become sentences in your head. Your conscious mind often gets the final headline, but it may not write the entire article. Think about how many things you do before you can explain them. You reach for your phone, then you realize you reach for your phone. You open the fridge, then you stand there like, Like the fridge might reveal your destiny. You walk into a room, then you forget why. You say, I don't know, I just felt like it. That sentence is not laziness, sometimes it is honesty. Because your brain is constantly weighing things before language arrives. Your body knows you're tired before you admit it. Your stomach knows you're hungry before you become poetic about dinner. Your nervous system notices someone's tone before you can explain why they feel off. Your memory pulls up old pain before you know what triggered it. Your attention turns towards danger, novelty, comfort, embarrassment, desire, and fear before you can hold a meeting about it. The conscious voice comes later and says, here is why I did it. And sometimes the reason is real. Sometimes it is half real. Sometimes it is a very confident intern holding the wrong folder. This is where the mystery gets uncomfortable because we are not only decision makers, we are also storytellers. The brain does not like blank spaces. If you act, it wants a reason. If you feel something, it wants a cause. If you choose something, it wants a story that makes you sound coherent. So it builds one. Fast, smooth, usually without asking permission. You choose the blue shirt and say, I just like blue. Maybe you do, or maybe you saw a blue sign 5 minutes ago. Maybe your mood shifted. Maybe the shirt reminded your brain of a person you miss. Maybe you were simply on top of the pile. But the narrator inside your head hates saying, honestly, several unconscious processes fought in the basement and the shirt survived. So it says, I like blue. Elegant, clean, suspicious. There's another famous set of studies where researchers used brain scans and found that in very simple choices, patterns of brain activity could contain information about what a person would choose before the person reported being aware of the decision. Again, careful. This was not mind reading like science fiction. It was not perfect. It was not predicting your future spouse, your career, your lunch order, and the exact moment you will give up on folding laundry. It was about simple choices. But still, the idea is unsettling because it suggests that some decisions may begin as quiet brain activity before they become I choose. And that raises a question that feels like it belongs in a locked room mystery. If the decision starts before you know about it, where were you when it started? That is the question. Where were you? Were you absent? Were you late? Or are you bigger than the conscious voice? Maybe the problem is that we keep calling the voice in our head me. But the voice is only part of the system. A loud part, a very dramatic part, a part that loves explaining things after the fact. But it's not the whole person. You're not only the sentence I decided, you're also the body that leaned forward, the memory that warned you, the fear that pulled you back, the habit that moved your hand, the value that stopped you, the emotion that colored the room, the attention that noticed one detail and ignored another, the old wound that said careful, the hope that said try again. The brain is not one voice, it is a committee. And half the committee does not use words. That sounds annoying because it is. Have you ever made a decision and only understood days later? At the time you said, I don't know why I said no. Then later in the shower while your shampoo is making major legal arguments, you suddenly realize, oh, I felt pressured. Oh, I did not trust them. Oh, that sounded too much like something that hurt me before. The decision happened first. The explanation arrived late. Like a guest who brings dessert after everyone has already left. That does not mean the decision was random. It means it came from somewhere deeper than the part of you that speaks in complete sentences. And that is why free will gets complicated. Because people often imagine free will as one magical button. A pure, untouched, glowing button that says choose. But real life does not look like that. Real life is messier. Your choices are influenced by sleep, stress, childhood, hormones, culture, pain, money, fear, love, trauma, blood sugar. The room you're in, the people watching, the smell of food, the last thing you read, the song stuck in your head, the one embarrassing memory from 2014 that apparently pays rent in your skull. Your brain is never choosing from nowhere, it is choosing from history. So maybe the scary question is not, do we have free will or not? Maybe the better question is, how much of a choice has already been shaped before it reaches awareness? Because that is where the story gets useful. If your brain prepares decisions before you consciously notice them, then the self control is not just about heroic willpower in the movement. It's also about designing the moments before the moment. That sounds less dramatic, but it might be more powerful. If you do not want to scroll for 2 hours, do not begin the battle with the phone already in your hand. That is like entering a sword fight carrying soup. Move the phone away, change the room, turn off the trigger. Make the unwanted choice harder to reach. If you want to eat better, do not rely on your midnight self to become a nutrition monk. Midnight you is not a monk. Midnight you is a raccoon with Wi Fi. Wait, no, let's keep it human. Midnight you is a tired person with snack access and no courtroom supervision. So change the environment earlier. If you want to be kinder, practice the pause before anger arrives. If you want to be braver, build tiny brave actions before the big one. If you want to choose differently, you do not only argue with conscious voice, you train the whole system. Because maybe free will is not a lightning bolt. Maybe it's gardening. You do not command the plant to grow at 3:17 p.m. You shape the soil, you water it, you move it towards the light, you remove what keeps choking it. Then later, when growth happens, it looks sudden, but it was prepared, just like a decision. That this is the part I find strangely comforting. The fact that your brain prepares actions before awareness does not make you powerless. It might mean your power is deeper and slower than we thought. You're not only the final yes. You're the habits that make yes easier. You're the reflection that changes tomorrow's impulse. You're the person who notices a pattern and says, no, we're not doing that again. Even Libet himself did not simply say, well, free will is dead, everybody go home. He was interested in whether consciousness might still have a kind of vero. Maybe the brain begins preparing an action, but awareness can still interrupt. Maybe the urge rises, but you can stop it. Maybe freedom is not always the first spark. Maybe sometimes freedom is the hand on the brake. That feels very human. Because honestly, most of our proudest moments are not pure first impulses. They are interruptions. You want to say the cruel thing, but you stopped. You wanted to quit, but you stayed. You wanted to repeat an old pattern, but you caught it by the sleeve. You want to believe the first story your brain gave you, but you asked, is that actually true? That question matters because the brain is an incredible storyteller, but not always a reliable narrator. Every morning you wake up and the system comes online. Memory returns, name returns, body returns, problems return. Unfortunately, and somewhere inside all that, the feeling appears. I am here. I am choosing. I am living my life. That feeling is not fake. It is just not simple. A movie is not fake because it is made of frames. A song is not fake because it is made of vibrations. A self is not fake because it is made of brain processes. But once you know that there are processes underneath, the magic changes. It becomes stranger. Because now, every ordinary action has a shadow. You lift a cup but before the cup moves, muscles prepare. Before the muscles prepare, neurons shift. Before neurons shift, attention, memory, desire, and prediction are already whispering. Then the voice arrives. I picked up the cup. Yes, you did. But the you was not just a voice. The you was a whole hidden machinery, the whole city, the whole storm. And maybe That is why this topic feels so itchy. It does not attack a fact you know, it attacks the place you're standing. It makes you wonder whether the self is the driver or a dashboard, a king or a spokesperson, a detective or a witness who arrived late and started taking credit. Here is the scene I keep imagining. A detective walks into a room. On the table is a button. A clock is ticking. A person says, I choose to press it. The detective checks the footage. The hand is moved away, moved after the choice. The choice comes after the urge. The urge comes after the brain signal. The brain signal comes after something even quieter. The detective looks around and asks, who started this? No one answers, because everyone in the room is part of the suspect. The body, the memory, the habit, the fear, the want, the voice, the pause, the past. All of them were there. All of them had fingerprints on the decision. And the detective finally realizes the truth. There was no single culprit. There was a system, and the system had learned to call itself me. But the you who chooses may be much larger, older, quieter, and stranger than the voice that says, I made up my mind. So the next time you make a tiny choice, try to catch it. Say yes, say no. Watch closely. There will be a moment where the answer appears. It will feel like you made it. Maybe you did, but ask yourself, did I create the choice or did I become aware of it? Because if your brain starts deciding before you know, then the real mystery is not whether you have free will. The real mystery is, who are you before you became aware of yourself?